Welcome to the Aviation Pros Podcast, the go-to platform for professionals in the aviation industry. Powered by AviationPros.com, the leading source for comprehensive news, insights, and data on airport operations. Whether you're focused on airport management, improvement programs, ground handling, equipment, MRO, or FBO operations, we've got you covered with the expertise and resources you need to stay ahead.
Hello, everyone. This is Jenny Lescohier with Aviation Pros. Welcome to the Aviation Pros Podcast. Today I am with Richard Willis and Brett Williams from the National Asphalt Pavement Association. And I'm going to let them explain exactly what their goal is today. Can one of you explain your roles?
Yeah, I'll start off. And my name is Richard Willis, and I'm the Vice President of Engineering, Research, and Technology for the National Asphalt Pavement Association. Been with NAPA about 10 years now. And for the last 6, we have been managing the Airport Asphalt Pavement Technology Program for the FAA. And before we go deeper into that, I'd like to let Brett introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny and Richard. So I'm Brett Williams. I'm also with the National Asphalt Pavement Association, part of the engineering team, work with Richard, and also involved in some of the staffing for the Airport Asphalt Pavement Technology Program. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Can you provide an overview of the program and its partnership with the FAA?
So the AAPTP program is a cooperative agreement between NAPA and the FAA. As a part of the FAA reauthorization, Congress gave the FAA $6 million a year to really advance pavement technologies. And $3 million of that goes towards the asphalt industry, and $3 million of that goes to the concrete industry. And so there's a similar concrete program that's run by the CP Tech Center at Iowa State University. But the real purpose of these programs is to really advance the asphalt pavement industry in terms of like design, construction, materials, and really find solutions to problems that people are experiencing in the airfield community. And that could be for contractors trying to build the airfields, or it could be owners and consultants trying to make the pavements last longer or solve issues that they're having. And so one thing that makes this program a little bit different is while we are doing research and while we are trying to find solutions to the challenges that we face, the real distinguishing feature is we are also majorly focused on implementation. We are making sure that it just doesn't end up in a nice little PDF or a report, but we're actually creating tools and we're creating value for those users of airfields to help them to actually take those problems that they have and say, hey, here's something that will fix that. And now let's look at the next thing that's coming up.
So how do you identify and prioritize the research projects that you're working on and, that will have the greatest impact for airports?
I'll first say that anybody is allowed to come to us with ideas. You can email Brett or myself, and we will gather those ideas a couple times a year. And then a group called the Program Coordination Group takes all those ideas and really prioritizes them. And so the Program Coordination Group is managed by NAPA, but NAPA actually, the staff doesn't have a vote in terms of what projects we're going to pick or what projects we're going to recommend to the FAA. But we do have an asphalt contractor that's a part of that. We do have someone from the FAA on the program coordination group, someone from the Department of Defense, because we'd love for them to implement some of this on their military airfields. We have someone from Boeing to help us understand what maybe changes to airplanes are coming that we need to prepare for, and even like the aggregate industry and the state asphalt pavement associations. And so this group meets together about twice a year and takes all these ideas that are coming to them, looks at the amount of money that the program has, and decides, all right, these are what we want to focus on. And so projects have ranged from construction projects where we're looking at new materials to building websites and apps, or even looking at putting money towards actually marketing and implementing the program and getting the information out to people. And so the program coordination group is really that that body that's a part of our contract with the FAA that decides kind of here's what we're going to focus on.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges that airports are facing today?
So I think Richard kind of touched on it, and he and I, neither of us are really out there working on an airport day to day. So those challenges are kind of funneled in through the PCG or that program coordination group. But to look at some of the challenges or some of the opportunities that the program has really tried to address or had projects to find solutions to challenges, it goes in a lot of different directions. So we've had projects looking at balanced mix design and how we design mixes to really up their performance and continue to improve our facilities and get more life out of them, to recycling efforts and some of the different technologies that are now being used on highways and roads, whether it be cold central plant recycling or incorporating RAP into mixes, to looking at resilience and what that means for asphalt pavements at airfields, to looking at the design of high-speed exits and addressing some of the challenges that airports have seen on those. So there's a lot of different directions, as well as some of the resources, like the Asphalt Paving Handbook is a resource that's used in the field, in the industry, and by all facets of the industry, and really understanding how to best build pavements on our airfields. So I think we're addressing a lot of challenges, and it can go from materials to design to just operational. And we're taking those inputs through the PCG from all different facets and really look to the community to feed that back. If you're experiencing challenges or you see opportunities, we want to hear those.
And I think one of the great things just to add here is it's the entire industry coming together to help each other find solutions. So a lot of time research is just done by the owner or just done on a contractor trying to figure things out. But this really is consultants, owners, FAA, contractors coming together to help solve each other's problems, which is another thing that kind of makes the program unique.
I mean, I think it's safe to say there's quote unquote a lot riding on the asphalt that is found on airports. Am I right? I mean, when it degrades, it's a very serious issue. Can one of you tell me how the organization emphasizes moving research into practice? How do resources like the Asphalt Paving Handbook that you mentioned, the mobile app, webinars, and training materials help the airport professionals apply new knowledge?
Yeah, so I think Richard kind of started us off and talked about the real focus on implementation, and that is a big piece of it. And that the AAPTP, the actual deliverable probably isn't the research. It's more of the fact that we're bringing these things into the field and we're driving implementation. And whether that be the handbook, like you mentioned, the handbook, it initially was a project to develop a PDF, right? And it's a big resource. I think it's 400 pages, but I think we all know that sitting down to a 400-page resource is maybe not going to happen, especially out in the field. So phase 2 is to develop an app and a website where you can actually access that information. It has an AI feature where you can question against that resource and it can put you right to where you're looking for an answer. And so that makes it mobile. That makes it so you can be out in the field, and it just helps make these resources more available, more implementable, and there's a big focus on it. So when you go across the projects, you have obviously the technical report, but we have a marketing arm that's really focused on fact sheets to really develop additional mechanisms to communicate what's being done. Development of videos, that's both within the handbook. There's videos that are specific to topics to give it in a different form so it can be easily digested in different ways, as well as spotlight videos on the different research projects. So you can hear about what's being looked at and kind of where that's pointed and where that can be implemented by different parties in the airfield industry. So I think opportunities like this to share on different podcasts. We have webinars. We put out different newsletter articles and have developed tools like Richard mentioned. So there's a design tool that helps pavement designers make sure they're selecting like the right asphalt binder grade, which is very specific, but can be somewhat challenging for designers. So we're looking at all different avenues to get this information out and used.
And you mentioned the binder selection tool. Can you kind of elaborate that and any other tools that are already in use?
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. So that was a project that was one of the first ones we launched in the program. We had a lot of contractors coming to Napa and saying, "Hey, we're getting consultants that are specifying binders that just they don't exist," and it's because they may not have a strong background in asphalt binder and rheology, and so the FAA has a pretty prescriptive step or specification on how to select an asphalt binder for its use. And so this project, what happened was the research team, which was the National Center for Asphalt Technology at Auburn University, they basically found the base binder grade for every single county in America. So that no matter where your airport is, we know the starting point. And so someone can now come into this tool, which is it's web-based, it's free, and select their airport wherever it is in the US, and then just walk step by step through the FAA specification, answering the questions. And at the end, it will tell you, here's the binder that you need to follow the FAA spec. It'll even do that for the UFGS spec for the DoD. So if you're doing something for an airfield at a military base, it'll be able to do the same thing for you. You can just click the DoD specification. So what we've seen is it takes a lot of the guesswork that people may have out of that process. It makes it easier, especially for someone who doesn't understand or doesn't have a strong background in asphalt binder. I think a couple of other things that are making a big difference are the series of videos that were developed for the paving handbook. They were getting a ton of views on YouTube. We've gotten contractors have asked for them to help implement them in trainings at their own companies. We had one contractor that told us basically an airport has adopted those videos, and part of that process of getting ready for a paving at their airfield, they now require the contractors and the crews to watch those videos. And I think having something like the handbook on as a mobile app or as a website, we've seen a lot of academia actually start thinking about how they can incorporate this into teaching people asphalt. And so it's not just helping the people in the community right now, but it's helping people that are going to be coming into the community be more prepared to be active and be more qualified and more knowledgeable when they take those jobs at either airports or an asphalt contractor or consulting company.
Okay, I want to ask you to walk back something for me, because I think and maybe some of or a large part of our audience that doesn't know asphalt that well. Can you explain what a binder is? Okay. And then also, you mentioned how every county of the country, like, is that a climate thing, or is it a soil thing, or kind of, I think it'll be a fun fact for everybody to understand what those things are all about.
Yeah, so an asphalt binder is what's called a viscoelastic material, which means it reacts to two main things. It reacts to how long a load is on it, and how long and the temperature at which it's being loaded. And so the way I describe asphalt binder, it's a whole lot like silly putty. And so if you take silly putty and you make a ball out of it and you throw it at the ground, the silly putty is going to bounce back up to you. But if you take the same silly putty and you just put your thumb on it and your thumb will just gradually sink into it over time. You put a lot more force into it when you threw it into the ground than when you put your thumb onto it. But you got different reactions because of the amount of time that load was on it. And so that's really important when you're starting to think at airfields, because when you look at a runway, that load is maybe heavy, but it's coming in fast. But in your taxiways and in your aprons, a load is sometimes just sitting on there. And so you've got to have a binder that's going to be able to resist it. And so the asphalt binder is actually what coats the rocks and holds the asphalt mixture together. And so when we look at asphalt binders, we want to make sure that we have the right binder to resist the rutting, but also temperatures. And so we look our specification mainly looks at two different types of temperature, really high temperatures and really low temperatures. And the high temperatures, we look at how long something stays hot. And so we think about the hottest you're going to see in an area, the hottest temperatures you're going to see, and look at kind of the 7-day average of the hottest it's ever been. And we want to make sure that we can resist rutting or kind of the deformation at that temperature. But low temperature, we just look at what's the coldest it's ever been. Because if something gets really cold, it doesn't take a lot of loads to break it. It just takes maybe one good one to snap it in half. And so our binder specifications are designed to look at the climate of a certain region or a certain place and design your asphalt binder or create your asphalt binder to make sure that you can resist those really high temperatures you're expecting to see and the really low temperatures that you're expecting to see. So an asphalt binder in Miami International in Florida is going to look very different than probably an asphalt binder used at SeaTac, just because of the location. And you also look at things. That's why the FAA asks questions like, is this binder going to be exposed to slow, heavy moving objects? And if so, you're probably going to need something that's going to be a little bit more resistant to that slow, heavy moving object than if you're just constantly seeing light objects or things moving quickly on it.
So I'm guessing that like Chicago O'Hare has a very interesting binder because it's got a, very, very hot in the summer, very, very cold in the winter, lots of traffic of all different types. So there's got to be binders that are more versatile than others.
Yeah, you're
Interesting.
absolutely right.
I don't know. I think that's a very interesting fun fact. We all hear the reports at times of like, oh, the roadways were melting in India, because it got so hot. And I'm now thinking that's because they didn't anticipate that temperature when they mixed their asphalt, or it's just getting a lot hotter.
Probably.
All of the above. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that question. I think that's very interesting. But along those lines, so workforce development, I think you touched on it with videos and so on, but this is a major industry challenge, getting, everybody up to speed. How is the AAPTP helping educate the next generation of airport pavement professionals?
Yeah, so I'd say that you definitely kind of pointed to it, and Richard shared some, but within the asphalt paving handbook and the deployment of that, making it available in the field, it's really creating a tool that helps those that maybe aren't as experienced or have those questions because they haven't seen something before. So it's getting tools out to those folks that maybe have less experience, as well as, like Richard mentioned, the videos that we've had created out of the handbook have now been incorporated into different curriculums for training. And so you can start to see that it's being used to help bring that next generation into the industry and really understand what's going on out there. In addition, the videos were translated, both audio and all the visuals, into Spanish. So we're helping even for those that maybe speak Spanish in cases and want to digest that material. And I think beyond that, the program has opportunities to be involved. There's project panels. So like maybe somebody that has a real interest in an area, there's an opportunity to maybe learn, right? Be part of the project technical panel, be part of the research, understand how we're answering these questions, and be part of that research, working alongside. And the other piece of it is the projects. A number of the projects are led by a university, but include a number of universities that are working to really try to address these. And so it's a learning experience for graduate students or research assistants in that aspect too, like people that are understanding what the industry is facing and helping come up with some of those creative solutions. And so I think there's a lot of different aspects that kind of talk to like that next generation and how the workforce is evolving and how we're helping to build that learning experience.
Well, what going forward, what emerging technologies or innovations do you believe will have the greatest impact on airfield pavement design, construction, and maintenance in the years ahead?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one actually that the AAPTP asked and had a project. So we had a project that was Advanced Technologies for Airfield Pavement Projects, and the project really focused in on understanding what technologies are out there that are ripe, that aren't being used on airfield projects today. And they used artificial intelligence to digest, I think, more than 10,000 different papers and kind of boil that down into a condensed list. And so some of the interesting things from that study that I think are worth pointing out is it brought some of the technologies that maybe aren't deployed for airports, like balanced mix design or recycling, as technologies that are going to be coming down the pipe that could be looked at. And it kind of basically strengthened that those were good projects for the APTP program. But then it got into all sorts of different, I guess, areas, right? In terms of materials, talking about like high modulus asphalt pavements, products like innovative products for fuel resistance, to like digitization and how we deal with like material delivery, such as like e-ticketing solutions and the communications around that, as well as thermal profiling and understanding temperature when you're doing the construction process, which can be really important in getting the final product compacted and ready for service. And then it even touched into some of the more like longer term technologies that maybe aren't deployed yet, like using drone based inspections, ground penetrating radar to even get more measurements on our pavements. So there's a lot of technologies, a lot of things that will be impacting our future and helping us improve quality, understand our materials, and really prepare our airports for the future.
I do think one important thing to note, though, is while we are looking at advanced technologies and implementation, we also understand that airports implement slower than highways, and there's a reason for that. It's a higher risk environment, and we have to make sure that things like foreign object debris and FOD don't get into and get into the airplanes and cause problems. And so one of the great things that I think about the AAPTP is it kind of de-risks some of those innovations by doing the legwork and helping airports see, okay, what is viable and what isn't. And that's one of the reasons why sometimes we partner with the Hughes Center up in New Jersey, which is the FAA's big research facility. And we build test sections with new materials that we're evaluating to see if they're going to work, so that people don't have to try these things on their own runways, because we know if runways are not great experimental design places. There are other ways to do that, and this program and its partnership with the FAA can help airports figure that out.
You sort of touched on what my next question's about. Maybe you can elaborate. But what message would you like airport leaders to take away about the value of investing in research and innovation?
I mean, when you compare the cost of research to the cost of an asset, research pales in comparison. And so I think it's important for us to do this kind of legwork to provide confidence that your asset is going to perform if you're trying something new. And I think that one of the great things about this program is we are trying to leverage it nationally. So one project that we're doing about improving longitudinal joints or maintaining your longitudinal joints, it applies to every airport across the country. And so these are not just, we're not developing things in isolation for one or two places. We're really trying to, as the FAA is a national group or national administration, we are trying to solve national issues. And so we're working to try to improve specifications, to try to make the pavements last longer. And so I would encourage you to go to our website, or we just launched a newsletter a week or two ago that's going to be coming out monthly, and it in the vein of us trying to take research and put it into practice. It's called From Research to Runways. Subscribe to that to understand what's coming on and what you can take and apply at your airfields that you're managing, you're owning, you're consulting on, because we really think that there are opportunities. And the other thing I would encourage airport leaders to do is if there are problems that you're having, reach out to us. We are always looking for new ideas. We're always trying to not just come up with things that sound cool, but actually solve real world problems. And so that's where the mitigation of plastic flow and at high speed exits came from. Is there were airports that basically said, hey, we're having this problem at our high speed exits where planes are coming in, they're turning fast, high shear, and we're starting to see the asphalt deform. And so that project came in and said, okay, here's a real world problem. Let's find a solution for it. And now we've got ideas for how to fix that in the future. And so reach out and we'd be happy to talk to you more about what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
All right. Well, thanks to both of you for being with us today. That's some very interesting stuff. So I hope you will keep us posted going forward. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Richard. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Aviation Pros Podcast. Stay ahead in airport operations and leadership by subscribing to our Airport Business Daily Newsletter, your go-to source for the latest industry insights. And don't forget to explore even more at AviationPros.com, the home of exclusive content for aviation professionals like you. I'm Joe Petrie. We'll catch you next time.